Dream Body and Dream Life interview series. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Alexis Wolfer. So, to tell you a little bit about Alexis, she is the founder and editor-in-chief of thebeautybean.com, an online women's magazine founded in 2009 to bring women their beauty, fitness, and wellness fix in a way designed to make them feel better about themselves. Less than 2 years later, Forbes magazine named thebeautybean.com one of the top 10 women's lifestyle websites. Alexis has simultaneously become a well-known beauty and lifestyle expert as seen on the Today Show, E!, The Doctors, NBC, ABC, Fox, Oprah.com, and more. Access Hollywood even named Alexis the female beauty MacGyver, and People Style has dubbed her the DIY beauty queen. So that's just a little bit about Alexis, but I just want to start out by saying welcome and thank you for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me. I don't think anybody's ever given me that thorough of an introduction.
Well, when I was going through it, I was like, sometimes, I look for ways to kind of like pare it down, but I feel like that's all stuff to be celebrated because it just shows how valuable the information has been that you've provided to women.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah. So why don't we start out by talking a little bit about your road to rocking your dream body and your dream life by your definition?
So this is like a really big question for me because my entire platform is based on helping women look and feel their best and to feel really confident in their bodies. And it's not because I've figured it all out and that I sit here on this high throne as like hey, I've got the answers, listen to me. It's more about like, this is my process and this is what has worked for me. And these are the experts that I rely on. And I definitely feel more confident in my body every day. And I definitely feel more like I'm rocking my dream life and body every day, but it's certainly a process. So just to give a little bit of backstory, I have my master's in human rights and women's studies, and I wrote my graduate school thesis on women's magazines and their influence on body image and eating disorders, which was something that I had struggled with in my past. And it was really this like aha moment of, if you don't love and respect your own body, it's really hard to ask others to love and respect your body and to treat you with love and respect. Mm-hmm. And I launched the Beauty Bean to be that place for women to get all of their content in a positive, empowering way. I don't think you need to make women feel badly about themselves in order to sell them things. I think that we can have these conversations in positive, empowering ways that lead women to make healthier choices because they're honoring themselves, not because they're coming from a place of fear or insecurity. So for me, like, are there days when I feel really strong and healthy and fit? Totally. Are there days where I'm like, crap, my jeans are a little bit tight? Yeah. And I wish that weren't always the case, but I think it's the universal human experience, or certainly the universal female experience. And I try to be really open and honest about that process. So while my whole life is dedicated to helping women feel more confident in their bodies, it's a process that I'm currently on as well.
Yeah, and that's human. And that's really the whole premise behind why I created this interview series, is to help women understand that you can nourish your way towards your goals and find ways to really appreciate where you're at right now, even though you're not like there yet. It's a constant unfolding of becoming a better and better and better version of yourself. And so I was just going to say thank you for sharing that, because I feel like that's the thing women they think that other women have already figured something out that they haven't. And for you to be so open about that is really helpful, I think.
Yeah, I definitely think that I have a stronger understanding of these things today than I did 5 years ago or even 5 minutes ago. But, it is definitely a process. I will say that my definition of healthy and fit has changed. I think that when I was young and in my early 20s and struggling with a lot of these issues, it was really about being skinny. Mm-hmm. And healthy meant low calorie or non-fat. And, the more information, when you know better, you do better. But I think that I am that prime example with regard to myself and my body, that as I've learned more and I've had a stronger understanding of, nutrition and food and beauty and all of these things that I'm so passionate about, the more I realize how important it is for me to feed myself well. And I say in my first book, you are what you eat, and you don't want to be sugar-free Jell-O. Like that's not what you want to be.
Yeah.
And so I think I've seen really profoundly how what I eat affects my hair and my skin and my nails and my energy levels and my body and how I feel about my body. But it's much more about being fit and strong and what my body can do, and a lot less about whether I've got like a little extra jiggle where maybe I don't want a little extra jiggle.
Yeah. And even myself, like I teach this stuff and I'm a human too. Like I have those moments. And I think to have resources like thebeautybean.com where you're sharing information in a very positive way is so different than a lot of the messages we get, from current media, and this feeling of like needing to restrict or cut back. And when women are in that place of like being in that body jail, it doesn't feel good. It's not living your life. It's like living in this little tiny box. And so how do you help women start to get into this mindset of being confident and feeling good about themselves? Like you said, like loving yourself first. What are some of the first tips that you would give someone?
So the first thing that I tell every woman is to stop weighing yourself and to throw away your scale, and that your weight is no more than a measure of your gravitational pull towards the earth. It does not measure how fit you are, how strong you are, how sexy you are, how attractive you are, how other people perceive you. It tells you nothing about your health or your wellness or your beauty. It has no bearing on anything unless you're one of the very few people who has a heart or kidney condition for which a doctor actually needs to know if you're retaining water weight. For the vast majority of us, our weight is completely inconsequential. And yet for the vast majority of us, it rules our self-worth. And we get on a scale and it's like this number, and I've been there, this number determines whether I'm having a good day or bad day.
Yeah.
And that's terrible. Like there is no reason for that to take place. So the first thing I do is to tell women, and the immediate pushback I always get is, well, then I'm just going to eat everything and I'm going to weigh 600 pounds. I'm like, listen, like, are you going to have 2 weeks where after I tell you to like, stop weighing yourself, stop worrying about your pant size, and eat whatever feels good for you? Are there going to be 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks where you eat cupcakes and brownies every day? It's possible. Like after 2 to 4 weeks of eating like crap, you're going to feel like crap. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to be craving those foods. But when you start to take the pressure off of things, and when you stop to say, that when you stop saying that something's a banned food, or that this is a bad food, or I can't have this, you take away its power over you. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, you might have a couple weeks where you like put on a few pounds and your pants get a little tight and your energy levels are shitty and you're not eating well, but that's not going to last, because you're going to start to actually listen to your body. And I think our bodies do a phenomenal job of telling us what they need. We're just really terrible at listening to them.
Yes. Amen.
And we've been told our whole lives that you need to listen to this expert and buy this diet book, and you need to, do this and don't do this. And it's all these rules. And so for most of us, our whole lives, we've been trying to control our bodies instead of listening to them. And it's hard, and it's a process, and it's a lot of unlearning that has to take place. Mm-hmm. But over time, you really start to get in tune with, my body needs X, Y, and Z, and knowing what that means. And so there are times when I know that I need more fat in my diet. And there's a difference between going and reaching for like a Snickers bar and an avocado. Mm-hmm. And you start to know that, and you start to feel it, and you start to feel like, damn, I feel good when I'm eating this way. And some days it means you eat more, and some days it means you eat less. And, you really start to listen to those signals that your body gives you.
And it's like you only know through experience, like me or you. No one can really tell you, oh, this is what that feels like. It's like you have to go to that extent where you give yourself that freedom so you know the difference. You know what it's saying.
Yeah, I also think that, it's interesting kind of being on this interview series and talking with you about this, because I think we're both in positions where people come to us looking for answers.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually say to women, like, stop listening to the experts. If there was one diet that worked for everyone, there would be like one best-selling diet book and we'd all be fit and healthy and thin, and like there would be no issue here. But that's clearly not the case, because our bodies are different. There's a lot of biodiversity among the human species, and we all need different things. We need different things seasonally, hormonally,
Mm-hmm.
through our menstrual cycles, through our age, through all of these things, our needs change, and we really have to tune into that. And there's no other person that has that answer. So nobody can say, here's a prescription of everything that you should do, everything you should eat, the exercise you should do that's right for you. It's really a lot of trial and error and figuring out what that is and constantly reevaluating. So I see a lot of women get into this thing where they think they've figured it out, or like what their diet should be. And then all of a sudden it's either not working for them anymore, their skin starts breaking out, or I don't focus at all on weight or body size, but I do focus a lot on the things like your skin and your hair and your nails because of my background in the beauty space. And you find that you really need to reevaluate seasonally and throughout your life and make tweaks throughout the process.
Yeah, a lot of times I work with clients and we go to this place where they have a lot of freedom. Like they do experiment with like, what foods do I really want right now? And then they figure stuff out. And then they sort of return to structure from this different mindset of like self-discovery. And then that's where they can plug things in and realize that like right now what I need might not be the same as what I need in 6 months from now, because my desires change, my body changes, like the seasons, like you said. And so there's all of these different factors. So I think it's helpful for women to hear a little bit like, well, what is she doing? Not necessarily because they're going to mimic what you do, but I think when we hear them, we can sort of pull those like little threads that work for us. So I'd love to hear like, what does it look like for you on a typical day to take really good care of yourself and nourish your way towards whatever goals you've set for yourself?
So being physically active in some capacity is really important to me. I think for me, fitness is equal parts of physical exercise as it is a mental exercise, and it is my therapy and it is my sanity. And that doesn't mean that I give it a power that it doesn't deserve. But sometimes that means a long walk at the beach with my dog, and other times it means, really pushing myself in a spin class or a dance class or something like that. But just honoring my body in that capacity is really important. I find for me, if I'm not physically active in the morning in some way, I don't have the energy levels that I want. I don't sleep as well at night. And I'm just overall not as good of a human being. So that's really important for me.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to get there. It hasn't always been that way. And I always, in the same way that I recommend that people honor their bodies through their food choices, I think honoring your body in exercise is really important too. So paying attention to, does your body need something, kind of more mellow and zen and maybe yoga today? Or do you really need to push yourself and need that like heart pumping workout? So that I drink a lot of water. I find that when I'm not drinking enough water, my skin breaks out and my energy levels are down. So I'm always drinking a lot of water. And my body responds really well to a high fat diet, but like really healthy fat. So I eat a lot of nuts. I eat a lot of avocados. And I eat a lot of cooked vegetables. So raw vegetables tend to upset my stomach a little bit, and I just don't love them. Seasonally, I notice a big shift. Is this answering your question before I keep on going?
No, it's great. Okay. No, I think this is all perfect.
So like seasonally, I notice when the weather is cold, I really crave more hearty grounding vegetables. So I eat a lot of sweet potatoes and a lot of squash and beans. Whereas in the summer, I don't, as much as I still prefer cooked vegetables over raw vegetables, it tends to be more greens and things that are a bit lighter. I do really like grains and more carby kind of things. So like oats and rice. But I find that I'm tired after I eat them.
Mm-hmm.
And that took like a really long time of self-discovery for me to really get down and dirty with, because I really like that stuff. But I will have rice, for example, for dinner, but I wouldn't eat like oatmeal in the morning. It's like, I may as well just like stay home and watch TV all day. It just doesn't work for me. And
Yeah.
that's not a universal truth. That's not me saying like oatmeal is not a good breakfast because you're going to have low energy. That's me saying like oatmeal doesn't work for me for breakfast.
Yeah.
Or if I'm going to eat oatmeal for breakfast, like I'm going to do that on a Sunday when I'm like running errands, not when I really want to feel on my A game. Yeah. And then I haven't had red meat or chicken since I was a kid. So I don't eat meat. Fish, I go through phases where I crave it, and it's usually cyclical in line with my hormones. And I rarely cook it, but like once in a while. But if I'm out to eat, I'll order fish.
Mm-hmm. And so,
and dairy makes me break out, but that also took a long time to figure out.
and that's the thing, like, so this, like you said, it took a long time for you to figure out. And I think that's the thing, like we're always looking for that quick fix answer. And so when you give yourself permission to figure it out, is it skipping? I can hear it kind of skipping.
Yeah, I couldn't hear that last question.
Okay. When you give yourself that permission to figure it out, then it takes the pressure off.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a process. And I think, it's one thing that I often suggest to people is to keep a food journal. And this is kind of like, I hate saying that because it brings back so many eating disordered memories for me, but it's not a food journal where you're writing down and keeping track of everything that you're eating and how many calories it is and whether or not you deserve to have more, or like your checks and balances work out for the day. It's not that at all. But a lot of the times we don't realize that our reactions to foods don't necessarily happen immediately. So you might have yogurt every morning for a week, and you might break out 10 days later. And you might see this consistently if you're keeping track of these things, whereas you wouldn't necessarily see that correlation if you were just paying attention to like, how do I feel in 20 minutes? Because in 20 minutes, you're not going to have a pimple from eating yogurt, but you might have pimples from eating yogurt if you're paying attention to how your body and your skin and all these things are reacting over the course of time. And that's when you really get the powerful insights, when you're able to really look at this data.
Yeah. And so in terms of how your body responds and how it functions properly, what are your thoughts on how stress affects the body?
Well, I think stress is like super interesting and contradictory, because stress in like a short-term, very acute dose is brilliant. It's what allows you, when you're nervous about something, to give a presentation, or to be, for me, like being on TV or whatever it is, that adrenaline rush, like that's super powerful. And that can really push you to be amazing. And that's what stress is supposed to be. It is supposed to be a hormonal response that gives you that extra edge. Unfortunately, for so many of us in our lives, we end up in this constant state of stress, and that's terrible for you. So it causes inflammation. It causes problems with every sort of a physical response, both externally and internally. And yeah, it's in the modern idea of stress, it's terrible. But I always feel like I have to give that caveat of like, stress wasn't always such a bad thing.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like become so normal that people just deal with it and they don't even notice. But it's like having these effects that show up sometimes as food sensitivities or all of this other stuff. So for you, in terms of like, so we talked about food and fitness, what other types of things do you do to help yourself relax and really give yourself the care that your body needs?
So this is related to the fitness thing, but I schedule my workouts in a calendar. And that doesn't mean that it's, I need to do this particular workout, but on every day, I know that there's like a chunk of 2 hours during which, like, for 45 minutes to an hour, I'm going to be active. And I've got like an hour buffer of like changing on either end and showering. But when I have that in my calendar, I'm not likely to cancel it. It's an appointment, and it's an appointment with myself. And for me, that's really valuable. So I find that on days when I don't schedule workouts, it's really easy to be like, oh yeah, like I can throw in this meeting. Like, yeah, I can jump on that call, no problem. But when it's in my calendar, I'm like, oh no, actually, like I've got something else scheduled at that time. Like, would something else be able to work?
Yeah.
So that works really well for me. I also wake up about an hour before I actually would need to get up if I were just getting out of bed and like getting ready to go and do whatever I needed to do first on my calendar. I find that hour in the morning for me to be able to walk my dog leisurely, to be able to like take some deep breaths, to be able to make a cup of coffee and have breakfast, that really helps center me. And it allows me to start the day on a relaxed note. And I think that when you start the day that way, it makes everything else a little bit easier and a little bit less frenetic. And I really appreciate that. And with regard to the workouts, I really try to do those in the morning too, because I do firmly believe that when you start the day with something hard, everything else is easy. And so it kind of sets a great tone.
Yeah.
I also really just try to honor my body and what I need, and whether that means on some days eating more often, on other days being less hungry, on some days, really needing to take a break in the afternoon and just recharge. And I know that my career gives me the ability to do that in a way that other people's doesn't. But even if it's just like a 5-minute walk around in the parking lot of your office building, I think sometimes that really helps.
Yeah, it's like fitting it in. I love that you schedule it because I do that too. And I think that makes you that much more committed when it's like a VIP appointment. It's in your schedule. It's like gotta happen. Then it happens, right?
Yeah. And even if that means like I cancel my spin class because like I'm really not feeling it, but like I go for a nice little leisurely walk, whatever it is, I think it makes a big difference.
Yeah, it really, really does. So if you were to like have 30 seconds to give, a woman that you just met who seems like she really, could use some of the value or the wisdom that you've gathered over the years, what would you say to that girl? Or maybe even it's like an earlier version of you.
I would say to not weigh yourself. And I would say to try to spend some time really figuring out what makes you happy and schedule that. So we've both talked about fitness. And I think for both of us, fitness is something that brings us happiness, contentment, stress relief, whatever it is. It's not fitness for everyone. So do I think that everybody should be physically active in some capacity? Yes. I think study after study shows that being physically active is good for you. It's good for your body. It's good for your stress, etc. But like, maybe you love to paint and like, you should have that on your calendar and you should be scheduling that in. Yeah. So kind of just figuring out whatever those things are that really make you feel happy and grounded, and to prioritize those things, or like, in an elevator pitch kind of way, like put me on my to-do list.
Yes.
I think so often we focus so much on everything else and we say like, well, one day I'll go on that vacation, or, when I have time, I'll call my best friend, or when it's convenient, I'll figure out a time to go and see my parents, or whatever it is. But like, if those are the things that are really fueling your fire, like don't wait. Yeah. You don't know how many more days you or your loved ones have. Like, do those things.
Yeah. It's interesting. So my mom, for the longest time, she was like, I want to travel when I meet a man that will travel with me. And she's like, I'm going to go to all these places. I'm going to do all these things. And then one day she just realized, no, I'm just going to go do those things. And then he's going to show up along the way because he likes to do those things too.
Totally.
And that's where you realize when you give yourself permission to do those things that light you up, circumstances, events, people show up that are so on the same wavelength that just make life even better.
Yeah, I also just think that the world is a better place when everybody's happy and when you're doing what you like. And I think my dad growing up used to always say, like, find what you love to do and you'll find a way to make a living doing it. And I firmly believe in that. But as an addendum to that, I would also say, like, find what you love to do and do that, because like the world needs more of that. I think we need more people who are doing things that pump them up and that they're passionate about and that they want to talk about all the time. And everybody's better off in that environment. We just need the permission to do it.
Yes, which we don't give ourselves.
Right.
And when we do, though, it's like you said, like conversations and things are so much better. People talk about what they're excited about versus complaining about the weather. And it just has that spiral in a positive way versus, like kind of just going through life trying to get by. It's really what you need to do in order to thrive and truly live your dream life.
Yeah, I think it's why I love entrepreneurs so much. Mm-hmm. I love that energy. I love the passion. I love when you talk to them and you're like, hey, what are you up to? And they can like talk for hours about what they're up to. Like, That's awesome. Yeah. And I want more people to experience that and to have that life. And there's no reason why you can't. Yes. I think often people think that it's risky to take that chance, but I think it's riskier not to take that chance.
Yeah. It's so true. And then, you look back and you say, man, I wish I would have done that thing instead of saying, well, I told myself I would do it when I weighed 20 pounds less or when I had X amount of dollars in the bank account. If you find those ways to open yourself up now, the universe really does conspire to your benefit. The universe, God, whoever that is that you are connected to will help you if you say yes to yourself, like you said.
Yeah. So you just made a reference to one of my favorite books, The Alchemist.
Yes. Yes.
Which I would also really recommend this hypothetical girl that I'm talking to for 30 seconds. I would also have her read that book because I reread that book at least once a year. Mm-hmm. And certainly any time in my life that something's going a little bit awry. And it just always reminds me that even if something's not working out the way that I thought I wanted it to, that it's always working out in the way that it's meant to. Mm-hmm. And I'm not religious at all, but I think it's a book that speaks to people who are very religious and are absolutely not in a really powerful, profound, universal way.
Yeah. One of my favorite mantras is things are always working out well for me. And I think that belief and that knowing, because of all the references that I have that things have always worked out, is what keeps me going in those moments where you're like, okay, and you're like, I don't know, I'm going to figure it out. And then you do.
Yeah, it's so true. And even looking back on the times in my life when I really thought that something was going so horribly or something had failed miserably, whether it was a relationship or a job or whatever it was. And I look back now and I'm like, damn, I'm glad I didn't marry that guy who I thought I wanted to marry. And like that business not working out ended up being such a blessing because I learned so much that I was able to then use to launch the business that I currently have.
Yeah. And then
just kind of having that philosophy.
And it works out like far better than you could have ever imagined from the get-go, right? Like you couldn't probably have ever guessed this is where you would be right now, but now you're like, thank God.
Never. Yeah. I think like if you had told me 10 years ago that I would be doing this, I would have told you that you were like off your rocker, like not even in like the wheelhouse of what I thought I'd be doing.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So I want to give people a way to be able to connect with you and to take this further or learn more about thebeautybean.com. And so where should we send them? I know you have a free gift. Tell us a little bit about it and then what the link is, but I'll also provide the link below.
Sure. So people can find me on thebeautybean.com or on any social media channel as Alexis Wolfer. We have the Beauty Bean social medias also, but if somebody wants to directly connect with me, at Alexis Wolfer is a far better way. And then, I would love to give away a copy of my book, The Recipe for Radiance, which is a beauty cookbook. So it's half recipes that help promote beauty from within and half recipes for topical homemade remedies, all using food. And I was kind of thinking that we could give that away on your social media channels, but I'm happy to give it away on my social media channels, whatever you prefer.
Well, either way would work. We'll just link it in the interview below, and then we would just have people send in an email, or what would be the best way for them to enter?
Perfect. We'll put together a link that you can have people click on that you can just enter via that link.
Awesome.
We'll do that.
Yay! So excited. Thank you so much, Alexis. I really appreciate it. I know we have a little technical difficulty going on, but hopefully the message came through and people were able to get everything that they needed from this interview that they needed to walk away with. So I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thank you for doing this.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
And I will see everyone else on the next interview.